Have you ever heard of any families having problems with heirs property? I'm attorney Vernita Williams, and I want to tell you about a new heirs property law in the state of Florida. Yes, there's something called the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act that was just enacted about 6 months ago in July of 2020. And I was very, very excited to hear about this because, if you know what heirs property is, you understand that somebody owned property long ago. There are several family members who are owners. And sometimes this means that with all those owners and still a deceased relative on the deed, there's nothing the family can do with it. They can't sell it. They can't get any money from FEMA if there's a hurricane. They can't even pull a permit to get the roof done. So when I heard about this Heirs Property Act, I was very, very excited because you know what? There's sometimes a little bit of danger in the property being owned as heirs property. You know why? Let's say the property has 5 heirs who are owners. And let's say there's one person who is eager to sell. And there are some real estate investors who are looking around to see if they can find the heirs and if they could possibly buy. Well, you know what? In some instances, the real estate investors are able to get 1 out of 5 to sell the property to them. So what do you have? You have 5 heir owners, one of whom sold their ownership interest to a real estate investor. And guess what? That real estate investor then has the positioning to be able to force the sale of the property, whether the other 4 people want to sell or not. So in the state of Florida, they did something to try to fix this problem. Because a lot of times what happens is that one person who goes ahead and sells their ownership interest without the knowledge of the other ones, a lot of times they take far less than what their ownership interest is worth. For instance, I recently had a situation where a gentleman sold his part for $500 when it was worth $20,000. So in the state of Florida, there is now an heirs property law designed to kind of fix that. Guess what that law does? 3 main things I want to tell you about this new law, which makes it so exciting to me. Well, if there are several heirs who own a property in the state of Florida, before one of the heirs can just sell the property, the part that they own, to a third party, they have to give the other heirs something that is called the right of first refusal. In other words, if it's 5 owners, the one who wants to sell has to give the other 4 owners the right to buy that property first before that person who wants to sell sells off to a third party. The other thing is the Florida law now requires that the fair market value of the property is determined so that people are not doing things like selling for $500 when it's worth $20,000. Another thing is the Florida law often requires, not always, but most of the time, it requires that the property be sold on the open market. If one person wants to sell and that one person forces something called a partition action, then it has to be sold on the open market so that the family can get the best value for the property. So why am I excited? I am excited because gone are the days when poor people who don't understand, or uneducated people who don't really understand the value of what they have, sell the property for $500 when they should have gotten $20,000. That's why I'm excited. So that's the Florida's new heir property law. If you and your family are having an heir property situation, feel free to call me at 786-831-9483. That's 786-831-9483. And I will be very happy to tell you more about Florida's new Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act.